Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Good Monday to you. Welcome to your Daily Dose of Awesome. Your live 15 minutes of daily motivation, inspiration, and education so you can get your day started right. Today is a very special day. One, I think almost fully recovered from the nasty bug that I had over the past couple of weeks. So hopefully you guys will be able to see much more of me in the coming days. But I'll also have a special guest today. I have Mr. JT DeBolt. And he's actually not the guest. He's actually, this is his first official day here with Elite Marketing Pro. And I brought him in to have a discussion. And over the next few days and into the coming weeks, JT is going to be taking over the hosting of Daily Dose of Awesome. And so that means you're going to get tons of content from him and his wealth of experience in our industry and his military background and in his background and experience helping companies grow, but that doesn't mean you won't be seeing any less of any of us. It just means that it's JT's responsibility to make sure you guys have the best guest trainers and the best content on Daily Dose of Awesome. And so, what's up, JT? How you doing, man? Are you excited about your first day? Oh, I can't hear you, man. Your sound's cut off.
There. Sometimes you double mute. I'm so excited. I forgot to unmute myself. How's that?
No,
dude, I'm pumped here, man. And I'll tell you, it's really exciting to come out here. I'm grateful that I get to spend some time with you again, and looking forward to having lots of great speakers out here. So this is a big responsibility, man. I got a lot on my shoulders. I got a big shoes to fill here, but I'm thrilled and I'm pumped to do it. So looking forward to it.
Awesome, brother. So let me see if people are actually seeing us live. There we go. Awesome, brother. All right, there we go. So I just want to be able to see the comments of everybody rolling in. And so if you guys are new to our broadcast, my name is Furnace Biles. This is my partner in crime, JT DeBolt. I'm a lead generation online marketing expert specializing in helping home business owners, that's network marketers, affiliate marketers, direct sellers, multiply their incomes using the internet. I built my first six-figure network marketing business within a couple of years of discovering the information we teach here at Elite Marketing Pro. And over the past 10 years, I've personally been responsible for over $15 million in gross income into my home business and have helped our clients produce hundreds of millions of dollars more collectively in their businesses as well. What we do here at Elite Marketing Pro is about empowering direct selling and home business entrepreneurs on effectively utilizing the internet. And really, our community, our system, is the genesis of what we now know as attraction marketing. And so, what I want to talk about today in a discussion directly with JT is about something that we all deal with. We all deal with overwhelm. We all deal with what we perceive as lack of results, and we all deal with distractions. And so, what I want to share a little bit on, and then also do a little bit back and forth with JT here, because the thing is, JT is a mindset and leadership expert, and I was just having a discussion with him right before we went live on these three things: overwhelm results or perceived lack of results, and distractions. And I want to address that and be able to empower you right here on this live in a way that's gonna instantly eliminate your overwhelm and have you get into results also almost immederately. And so JT, I want to share a little bit of a story, and then I want to get your feedback. So I was there was a member, a VIP member in our community, who was really struggling with some significant issues. One, she's dealing with some medical issues that are holding her back. She's in a lot of pain all the time. And I mean, she has a lot of time, but because she suffers from a lot of pain, it's really hard for her mind to kind of get straight. So she's dealing with as big of a distraction as many any of us can possibly deal with. She's brand new to our space, so she's learning all these new concepts and ideas. So there's overwhelm involved in processing all this information and trying to make sense of it all, and really the overwhelm compounded with the physical pain, that distraction, not making her feel too good. And then compound that with She's taken some action, and she's frustrated with the results. The results are not what she wants. She needs results like yesterday, because she needs to make up that ground financially, because she's not currently working. And so I wanted to address these three things with you: overwhelm, results, the results issue, and distractions. And the different, we all distractions manifest themselves in all types of different ways. And I want to first have a discussion with you about overwhelm and see what your thoughts are. Again, you are the expert in this area. I know what's kind of worked for me, but I've never actually really studied these concepts and observed them in other human beings and formed systematic ways of helping people. So I think you're the perfect person to have this conversation with. So what do you say?
You mentioned something to me earlier, and I think this is also a concept that you brought up at the workshops, at the Fast Track to Freedom workshops, which, by the way, I think are one of the best investments of your time and resources. So if you're in EMP and you have yet to make one, or if you need to make one, make sure you get that on your calendar. Make sure that's a top priority for you this year, because you're going to learn a lot of important things like we're talking about today. And I, sitting in the back of the room, learned this when Fernie said it. I guess it was weekend before last. We were talking about this in Los Angeles. You'd mentioned that overwhelm is kind of false, and I'm paraphrasing. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but it was what I took away from what you said is, overwhelm is a feeling that we generate. It's a feeling that we create for ourselves. And I thought, man, that's genius, because if you look at something, let's take a look at Michael Phelps. Okay, Michael Phelps is about to swim in the Olympics. This is the medal run. He's on the starting block. He's about to swim. There's literally millions, perhaps even billions of people watching. Now, I asked the average person, could you take his place in that moment? Could you swap places with Michael Phelps and say, okay, I've got this? Most people would say there's absolutely no way. Not only am I not physically qualified to swim in the Olympics, but the pressure would be too much. And what's interesting about that is that there's really no difference between you and Michael Phelps. You're both human beings. You have the same DNA makeup. The difference is that he's got years and years and years and years and years of rehearsal practice, right? Now, that's a very important word to remember. We mentally, all of us, can rehearse our way into better performance. And when it comes to overwhelm, that's exactly what it takes. So Michael Phelps's coach, actually, I remember reading about this several years ago. He would actually create what's called stress inoculation. So he would put Michael Phelps in practice, during a practice, through some almost impossible scenarios. For instance, he would replace his goggles and either give him too small or too large a set of goggles. He would break the seal so that the goggles would fill full of water and he'd have to swim essentially blind. And you think to yourself, oh, come on, man, that's, you're hazing your student here, you're beating up on Michael. But the simple fact of the matter is that it actually paid off, because I want to say it was in the 2004 or 2008 Olympics. I don't recall which one it was, but somebody stepped on his goggles and they actually filled up with water during the race, and it didn't even faze him. So you can see, like, overwhelm for us is oftentimes a perception. We perceive stress. We perceive something that's intense. One person may handle that very well, another person not so well. And so I kind of want to open the discussion right there, Fernie, because when you said that at the workshop, I thought, man, that's genius. And I personally believe and have seen this in the work that I've done with my clients, and even things that I've done to work on with myself in my career as an aviator and my career as an entrepreneur, that you can actually create an inoculation against overwhelm and stress. So I want to open the conversation with that, because I think it was powerful when you shared that.
Yeah, and if you guys have dealt with significant overwhelm, like if you have identified, wow, I'm overwhelmed, drop me a number one in the comment section here on our Facebook Live, because I want to know if you've ever dealt with overwhelm. Right now, we're gonna talk about how it is you can instantly deal with the idea of overwhelm and pretty much conquer it forever. So we'll give you some tools. So again, number one, if you've dealt with overwhelm in your business, in your life, in anything you've encountered. Now, yeah. So at the workshop, I didn't create this. I actually heard it from a guy named Kerwin Ray. He's this Australian leadership and business expert, and he said that overwhelm is just the inability to process large amounts of information. So whatever information is coming at you, you right that moment in time when you feel that overwhelm, you're like, whoa. The reason you feel that is you haven't yet trained yourself to be able to take in and process that much information. And eventually what happens is as you get acclimated to a certain situation, whether you're studying something, you're in a profession, and so you're learning some skill sets, eventually that the same amount of information coming at you, all of a sudden it is no longer overwhelming. It's processed. But you haven't, the difference between before and now is that you didn't have the ability, the skills, to be able to process that much information. So overwhelm is just a symptom of not having the skill to process, large amounts of information. I mean, think of being president, for example. A president has to deal with large amounts of information coming at him. Daily briefings from the CIA, whatever comes up during the day. He has a tight schedule, meeting with prime ministers and leaders, taking in phone calls. It's like it's a constant barrage, and I'm sure in the beginning, any new president has a feeling of overwhelm. But eventually, that same president, 6 months or a year into it, taking in the same amount of data coming in, is no longer feeling overwhelmed and actually quite comfortable, processing that information. And so that's kind of like how I view overwhelm. So overwhelm is one, a lack of a certain skill or ability, and two, it's composure. It's being able to be composed when a lot of stuff, is coming at you. What do you think, JT?
I think that's exactly the key word. So composure and poise, those are the two things that I always look for in a leadership scenario. And I'll tell you, as a young naval officer, they would put us in those pressure points all the time, because you go from basically, essentially come right out of college and they put you in the fray. Your job is to take care of other people. You typically people that are younger than you, but oftentimes people that have been in the military much longer than you. So it can be very intimidating and overwhelming to somebody when they come in and all of a sudden they've got these people that they're in charge of. I remember in the cockpit, one of the most dynamic things I ever learned how to do was called a slip. And a slip essentially means that you disrupt the airflow over the wing and cause the airplane to fall out of the sky. And it's a very intentional maneuver. It's something that every pilot has to master. And you typically do it when you're making an approach to land. So what'll happen is you'll put one wing down and the aircraft will just, and you have to kick the opposite rudder. I won't go into the kind of, pilot geek talk, but essentially what you're doing is making the aircraft fall out of the sky, and it's a controlled fall. And at the end, you kind of recover it and make a very nice landing. But the very first time I ever saw this done, my instructor said, "I've got the controls. I'm going to show you how to do this." And he did it, and we were falling, and I swear, Fernie, it was like I was looking straight down at the ground. I'm like, we're going to die. He's going to crash this airplane. He's lost his mind. Why are we doing this? And then at the last moment, he pulled it out, and everything was smooth, and it was a beautiful landing. But what it taught me was just what you're talking about, taking in all this information, right? I can see the altimeter just spinning like a clock. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can see the ground racing up at us. I can see the airspeed picking up. And then all of a sudden at the last moment, he puts in a few inputs and we pull out of it smoothly. He showed me how to physically do it. And even after he showed me how to do it, it still felt too much. And he said, all right, let's climb back up. Let's do it again. We did it again. He's like, all right, let's do it again. Let's do it again. And we did it. We must have done it half a dozen times that day alone. And we turned around, and the next day we did it, and the day after that. And over the course of about 2 weeks, we had accomplished doing that one maneuver several dozen times. In your business, you have to put yourself into a position where you're willing to feel that intensity, where you're willing to feel that rush of information coming at you. And we'll talk a little bit about strategies and techniques that you can use to get there. But the first part is you have to be willing to embrace this. You have to almost seek it out and ask yourself, where are the areas in my business right now where I'm really feeling overwhelmed? What are the areas that are keeping me up at night? And as opposed to trying to find a way to soothe that or to mask that pain or that discomfort, what we want to do is begin to open ourselves up to saying, I want more of that. How can I put myself in a situation of repetition? How can I do just like what JT had to do with his flight instructor, where we do it again and again and again, to where now we can process that information better because we've done it so many times. If we can do that in our business, it can be very powerful.
Yeah, and we got some people that are leaders watching this, and so, hey, Allison, how's it going? So Sally Crow actually made a great suggestion. When she says when she feels a state of overwhelm, she does a brain dump. She writes everything down that's going through her head, and then starts prioritizing. And 30 minutes later, she has a plan on how to basically deal with that. That's a great strategy for dealing with overwhelm. I mean, what are your quick thoughts? And if you guys have some methods or strategies that you use in order to kind of deal with something like overwhelm, please share. By all means, share what you know. You know, we had some people talking about, Floyd Mayweather being overwhelmed for the first 3 rounds with Conor McGregor in the last fight. It's I don't know if he was overwhelmed. I think he was just playing possum. But
right.
but in any venture, sports, business, people have different strategies for dealing with overwhelm. So what do you think of Sally's suggestion about doing a brain dump and then prioritizing the things that are going through your head?
I love it. I think it's an awesome strategy. In fact, what I would add to that is that when you do the brain dump, what you've now allowed yourself to do is to really see the forest for the trees, right? Because a lot of times in our mind, we think we have to conquer everything. We don't think in terms of, oh, do I have to make the sun rise and sun set? But it feels that way, right? We're thinking, man, we've got to control what our neighbors are doing, what our kids are doing, what our spouse is doing, and then on top of that, build our business. So what Sally's talking about is actually really genius, and I encourage everybody to put this into play. And Sally, thank you very much for contributing that, because frankly, that right there is a leadership step. Sally stepped up and shared with us a very important strategy that I frankly would prescribe to anybody. Just to be clear on what you're doing, when you write out everything, all right, when you physically write it out, and I actually do recommend pen to paper or pencil to paper, where you're physically writing it out as opposed to typing it out. When you physically write it out, it takes longer. You can typically write fewer words per minute than you can type. Most people, well, at least I know I can. It takes me. I'm slower to write with my hand, and the reason that you want to do that is it actually gives your brain a chance to slow things down. Right? When you're overwhelmed, you feel like everything's coming at you at 100 miles an hour. So what you want to do is actually slow down and write those things out. And as you're writing them out, you begin to go, okay, cool. This is a priority. This is important, but it's not nearly as high a priority as, item number 3. And pretty soon you start to slow things down. You can calm your breath down, and we'll talk a little bit more about physiologically getting yourself back on track. But right now, I think psychologically, if you can make that list and prioritize that list, that's going to be a huge step in decreasing that overwhelm. So awesome job, Sally. Thanks for sharing that. That's great stuff.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And we're having some great suggestions here, some great responses. So this is not only going to be valuable live here watching the video, but people that are watching the comments later on are going to, have some wealth of information going on here. Now let's get into results. So there's people in the network marketing space that are either building online or offline. And whatever they're doing, whether they're prospecting somebody or they're running Facebook ads like we teach to attract people to you. And they say, I'm running ads, I'm getting clicks, I'm getting leads, but I'm not getting results. I'm frustrated. I'm not getting the results. I'm not getting the conversions. I'm not, rich yet. What the hell's going on? So, again, I heard this from Kerwin, and he said that basically we have the power. We're empowered to assign meaning to all the feedback that we get. And the results I talked about getting clicks but no sales, or getting leads but no sales, hey, those are results, and you view them and you assign. We in the beginning with the untrained mind views those things as no results. We view those things as bad, and we don't see them as an opportunity to learn. We don't initially see them as a positive opportunity to learn, and so. And it's just like Edison with the light bulb. You view yourself as Edison with the light bulb. It's like he learned all the different ways that didn't work until he found the way that did work. So every time he learned that a certain metal and a certain structure or a certain way of doing things did not create a light bulb. So he was able to process that supposed failure and process it, take it in as information, as feedback, that helped him get closer and closer to the result that he wanted. And so, what say you about the idea of not getting results? Because really, what most of the time, what people are complaining about is not that they're not getting a result. It's not they're not getting the result they want, and they think that's the only thing that matters. And I disagree. The negative result is just as important, if not more important, than the expected positive outcome. What do you think, JT?
Amen, brother. In fact, I'll tell you, that's a very important lesson. I hope everybody picked up on what you just said. The way I like to look at it is there's a difference between results and an outcome. So we may have a desired outcome. Our outcome may be, hey, I want to be a six-figure earner. I want to create my next level, whatever. Maybe you're a six-figure earner now and you want to go to that next rung on the ladder. Perhaps you're just getting started and you want to just make your first sale. Whatever the outcome is, that's a big different than a result, because a result, you can have several little results that actually lead you to the outcome that you want. Case in point, you may say to yourself, like I remember at the beginning of the year, just due to pouring myself into my business last year, I had really allowed my fitness and my health to go by the wayside. And it started to manifest itself into some pretty, I won't say scary, but alarming things that were physically happening to me with my health. And I said, hey, this has to be a top priority. So number one is I assigned my health as a priority. Number two, as I said, for this priority to be realized, what kind of outcomes need to happen? I knew I needed to drop my weight. I knew I needed to get in better cardiovascular shape. I also knew I needed to build myself physically, with muscle. And I realized that as you lift weights, you're not going to lose as much weight. So all of a sudden, now what I've done is calibrated the expectation for the outcome. It wasn't about watching the scale drop, right? It wasn't about my physical body weight dropping. It was about my body mass index. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole thing about health and fitness, but this was an indication to me, because if I was obsessed with what the scale was showing, then I could be very disappointed. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs have to get clear on what the outcome is that they want. I was getting results. My wife was like, wow, you're looking amazing, babe. And I could feel it. When I was out going for a run or working out, and even just horsing around with my kids, I could feel that I wasn't as winded. I felt that I had more energy. I was sharper mentally. That's a result. Now, the outcome was, hey, I want to try to lose weight. Well, guess what? You're not going to lose weight if you're pumping iron, right? You're actually either going to maintain weight. You might even gain weight because you're replacing fat with muscle. In your business, you have to remember that there's a difference between a result and an outcome. And so if the outcome is you want to increase sales, you want to increase revenue, you want to make more money in your business, you have to realize that the results you're going to get may not look like income results yet, okay? The outcome may not be there, but you're actually getting results. So to your point, Fernie, I think it's important to note that, if you're looking at your stats and you're going, wow, our click-through rate's improving, or we're getting more leads, or that we're getting more engagement with our Facebook Lives or our emails or whatever it is we're doing, if you're monitoring your numbers and your metrics, that's really what's going to tell you whether you're getting results. The final thing I'll say to this, and I want to open this up to you as well, Fernie, is there's a difference between results and outcomes, and there's also a difference between progress and results. So progress will lead to results. Results will lead to outcomes. I'll ask you this question. I asked this in one of my courses that I teach my private clients, and that is this. If I put you in the middle of a forest and I give you no GPS, I only give you a compass. You can't see the sun because it's enshrouded with clouds. And all I tell you is 10 miles to the north, there is a village where they have internet and they have food and all these things. But right now you're stranded in a forest and there's carnivorous animals all around you that want to eat you. You're 10 miles away, go. If after an hour, I pop up out of the forest and I tap you on the shoulder and say, you have gone 2 miles in the opposite direction, the question is, have you made progress? Have you made progress? So instead of being 10 miles from your target, you're now 12 miles. You're actually further away than when you began. And the answer, in my humble opinion, is yes, you've made progress. Now, you may have made negative progress or you may have made backward progress, but at least now you know that you're headed in the wrong direction. The question is, are you going to become overwhelmed because the result or the outcome is further away than you thought it was? You've made progress. It's been in the wrong direction. So now what we have to do is use that knowledge and apply that to action. And when you apply knowledge and action, it becomes wisdom. And we say to ourselves, all right, let's do a 180. Let's go the opposite direction and start walking toward the outcome that we want. And then an hour later, you monitor your progress and realize we are getting another result. This time the result is we're back where we started from, which is even better than if we'd have kept going without monitoring our progress. So remember, it's about monitoring your progress, looking for the small little results, even if it's not a win, even if it's a defeat, and saying to yourself, what can we do to adjust this to get the outcome that we want? And that is how we get past that overwhelm of thinking about results and allowing the results to crush us. and start walking towards the outcomes that we actually want.
Yeah, and I love that you use that analogy because it ties into the idea of mentorship. You know, that person that would tap you on the shoulder when you're lost in the forest. That's essentially what we do here at Elite Marketing Pro. If people show up on our traffic calls or VIPs, or when our mentorship students show up on live, mentorship calls where we, myself included, are giving people feedback. If the ad that they ran, the numbers just bombed, it didn't fit any of the parameters, and we tell them, yeah, man, this ad sucks. That's feedback. That's feedback that's important because, okay, now I know that this ad I wrote, which previously I didn't know whether it was any good or not. I don't know if, I'm new at writing copy. I'm new at setting up an ad. Well, I just know that what I did wasn't very good. And so that's feedback. Okay, now let's dive into the details as to why it wasn't a good result for the outcome I'm trying to get. But it's not necessarily a bad thing that you had that experience, because now you know what a poor ad looks like. Now you know with your mentor's feedback, you can break down why that ad is not going to work for you want to do, and that's new knowledge that you can now use for your next attempt at that same effort, so you actually eventually get closer to the outcome. And so I think people can relate to that. And guys, if you guys have had a shift right now, if you guys have been complaining about not gaining results, drop me a number 2. If you guys been complaining silently or outwardly about not getting results, and now that you understand that your no results are actually results that you can use, it's just about how you interpret them. Drop me a number 2. Give me a number 2 if you've had, oh my God, I'm not getting results, or I'm getting crappy results. If you've now had a shift where now you can take that feedback and be able to appreciate it for what it is, feedback, that can become useful, definitely drop us number 2. Finally, JT, I want to quickly go through another idea. So the third concept I wanted to deal with, which tends to hold us back. So we talked about overwhelm holding us back. We talked about our perceived no results or lack of results holding us back, and how to deal with that. Distractions. We all deal with distractions. The particular lady that I was speaking with last week deals with a massive distraction. Physically, she's not up to the task. Her health is a challenge, and she's taking a lot of steps to remedy that. But, there's the distraction that pulls you away from your business, whether it's the kids, health, you get sick, the job, etc. So what are your, for me, it's about controlling the distractions, but can you enlighten us a little bit on what controlling a distraction actually means? How do you actually control distractions that you have no control over?
Hey, $1 million question, right? The biggest thing we have to understand is distractions come in many forms. So you can have environmental distractions. In fact, you may have just heard the phone ring here, and that's one of those things that I thought I had mitigated. As here in the office, you get a lot of phone calls. The unfortunate thing is that you have to realize you can't control that. I can't control who that is. Hopefully it's a client. It could be somebody else. If they're calling at a time when you need to be laser focused on something, that's the time to put the phone on silent, put it on airplane mode, or take the phone off the hook, whatever is response, whatever will give you the outcome that you want. So you have to control the environmental distractions. The environmental distractions are going to come. There's absolutely nothing you can do about that. You can mitigate them by giving yourself controls, putting yourself in a physical room where you don't have people walking past and knocking on the door and asking if you got a minute, right? Can I pick your brain, and all these kinds of things. So you can mitigate some of those, but you can't take them all the way out. What you can control are the inner distractions. And the inner distractions come from us being able to say, listen, for the next 20 minutes or the next 30 minutes or the next hour or the next week, whatever it looks like, I'm going to be laser focused on one thing. That one thing may be big, right? It may be, hey, I'm going to launch my webinar at the end of this week or at the end of this month. So for the next week, all I'm going to do is draft my script. I'm going to write out how we're going to do this. We're going to build our slide deck. That one thing, that's your one objective that you're going to work on, or the one goal you're going to work on. And then you give yourself 3 objectives that you're going to achieve to help you achieve that one goal. Right there, just that breakdown will allow you to get rid of a lot of the distractions. Because if you've gotten clear on what that goal is that you want to achieve, i.e. get your webinar done, and you give yourself just 3 objectives, not 100, not 50, but just 3. You say, these are my top 3 objectives. I'm going to get the slides done. I'm going to get the formatting done, and I'm going to rehearse it. Those 3 objectives will keep you on track and allow you to sift the distractions away from the priorities. The final thing I would add to this, Fernie, and I think that we've probably talked about this in the past, but there's a part where we have to allow ourselves to have some time for distractions, right? You're going to naturally there are things that are going to pile up on you. I've talked before about the Pomodoro technique. Perhaps you guys know this. And what this is where you allow yourself a block of time to focus just on one act, and then you give yourself a block of time to take a break. So think of it like sprinting. If you go run a marathon, you run 26.2 miles, you're in constant activity. And by the end of that 26.2 miles, you're pretty much wasted. Whereas if you just sprint one lap around the track, you sprint as hard as you can, you take a break. You sprint as hard as you can, you take a break. You can run 26.2 miles in that way. And what ends up happening is you get higher, denser quality work. Now that's metaphoric. In your business, literally what this means is that you give yourself an opportunity to work on one thing and one thing only for a set period of time. And then you give yourself a break to allow for those distractions, to allow your brain and your body and everything else to take a quick break so that you can get back into it and give maximum effort toward that one thing again. So I hope that helps, Fernie, but it's most important for us to understand that the distractions are going to happen to all of us. They happen to the top performers. They happen to the top burners. They happen to the most elite people on the planet, as much as they happen to a person who's really kind of, struggling with it on a daily basis. The key is to focus on one thing. The key is to get very clear on what you want to achieve and 3 objectives to get you there, and to allow yourself to have some time for downtime and for those distractions to be heard so that they'll go away.
Yeah, that's great, man. And one of our members, Terry, said that she tried the Pomodoro technique, and for the first time, and it was so much more productive. So there's a instant testimonial for a recommendation you just gave us. So guys, again, if you guys deal with distractions, drop me a number 3. And if you've found effective ways of dealing with that distraction, definitely share. And also, I want to tell everybody watching this right now that's on the line, share this far and wide with anybody that you care about. People on your personal profile, people on your fan page. Share this live. I think people will find this live extremely useful, and it doesn't matter what walk of life they come from, even if they're not in our industry in network marketing. I'm sure they can definitely apply some of these strategies to what we're doing here. So share it. Use your link if you're part of our Elite Marketing Pro membership. If you're not part of Elite Marketing Pro, want to learn more about what we do here, I encourage you to click on the link in the description if someone referred you here, or simply go to elitemarketingpro.com and opt in for our online recruiting bootcamp. We talked about the mental game a lot on this live, and I want to show you the more tangible actual skills that lead to the results. And for us, we do things online. Personally, I'm pretty much over doing things old school and prospecting people in public places. Whenever I go to the mall, whenever I go to a party, business is the farthest thing from my mind. I'm there to be present with everybody there. I'm not there to prospect. So if you want to essentially get your life back, go to elitemarketingpro.com and start learning a few strategies on social media recruiting and building online with our 10-day bootcamp. And we also have a social media recruiting guide that you can download immediately and start benefiting from. So JT, we've had an incredible discussion. We're definitely over time, but I think this is valuable for people. So we help people with techniques for dealing with overwhelm, techniques, a way of perceiving results or negative results, on how to turn those negative results into something useful that helps people grow every single day. Again, we control the meaning. We assign meaning to everything. We could choose to assign no meaning to something. We could choose to assign meaning. When we say, oh my God, that's a sign that I need to do this, we just assign that meaning to that. It wasn't God giving you a sign. It was you giving it the meaning that God gave you a sign. And so that's we assign. So assign that useful meaning to the results you are currently getting, even if that result is not leading towards, dollars in your bank account just yet. Because if you assign that useful meaning to the feedback you are getting, you're going to get closer to the ultimate outcome you want. And we also talked about distractions, and you shared some techniques for dealing with distractions. So JT, I am pumped that people are going to see more of you. Any closing thoughts before we sign off? Because I mean, again, people are going to get to know you a lot more closely over the coming weeks as your role inside of EMP as our chief leadership dude. So any final thoughts of wisdom or anything to share before we sign off?
This is what I would say, Fernie, is I'm pumped to be here. I'm thrilled. And the reason that is the case is that I've had the privilege of kind of observing from an outside perspective for the last several months, ever since the No Excuses Summit, which I'm thrilled and excited. I can't wait for the next one. But I've had the opportunity to kind of watch what's going on here. And I will tell you this, for anybody who's watching this live, or if you're watching the recording, if somebody cared enough about you to share the link with you, remember what Fernie said about mentorship. It's probably the single most important thing you can invest in for yourself. You've got mentors out there, especially here in the Elite Marketing Pro community, who are absolutely invested in you. They're here to help you succeed. Lean on them. It's one of the strongest acts that you can give, or that you can express to the world. And it's one thing that all leaders do. The Elite Marketing Pro team asked me to come on to help with leadership. Strong leaders know how to lean on people. They know how to ask for help. So make sure, if you don't have a mentor, if you don't have a coach, if you don't have somebody in your back pocket that's there to guide you and help you, make sure that you're making an effort each and every single day to find that person and to lean on them. And Fernie, I'm thrilled to be here, brother. Thank you for having me out here, and let's go make some awesome magic happen.
Yeah, man. And this is for me, this is a lesson in the intangible. Because there's so many things that, bringing you on, I immediately, when I met you, I saw the value in having you be a part of our team in one way, shape, or form because of the person you are. And, for us, it's like, I wasn't, I think leaders think this way. And I'm, becoming a leader, a better leader every single day. And eventually I learned that there's something missing from our community. There's I can talk all day long about marketing. I can talk all day long about funnels and the psychology of copywriting, etc. And I do have a little bit of insight into, the mindset game, but I don't have any formal training or background in that. And when I heard you speak and when I've heard you train at our workshop, I saw an opportunity to help our community grow and fill a gap that was sorely needed in our Elite Marketing Pro community. And I think it was within a matter of a week that we had a discussion about bringing you on, and a week later you're here with us, and I'm excited. I mean, there's no, really the only benefit that I was thinking of is how can I help give our community members that extra edge, and you guys have maybe have a little bit of insight now that you've been on this webinar, but you guys have no idea the edge that you've been essentially handed by having JT in the role that he's in now. So thank you, JT, for taking it on, for saying yes to our invitation to come aboard, and it's going to be an awesome ride. So thanks a lot, man.
It's an honor, man. Thank you.
All right, guys. So we will see you tomorrow with our next Daily Dose of Awesome. Take care. Have an awesome day.